Hello, I'm just going to do a video. This is going to be my customer experience, and also I want to touch upon the 5000 series and also with the Lossless 3, which has just come out now as well, the scaling. Uh, right, first things first, this will probably be an extreme, so it will do what I want it to do. But it's going to be an extreme version of it, and I'll explain why. So what you're going to listen for now is a rattling sound, which we picked up by the phone, and it is an issue with the phone. So now, hopefully you actually heard that. It picks it up a lot worse because the internal mics actually pick up the rattling more. As to what that is OIS rattle. I have the Samsung S23 is the Ultra. It's the 1TB one. And before anybody starts typing, yes, OIS does has a bit of rattle to them. If you get, I think it's roundabout from the S3, S4, I think it was. I noticed that the phones, if you got them, you give them a bit of a shake, you can actually hear like a rattle, and that's just the stabilization inside them moving around. But it was literally, you really had to shake them to hear anything. With this one, the phone's been fantastic, and then about 2 weeks ago, I noticed that when I picked the phone up, it made a rattle. And I just turned the phone around, it rattled again. I was like, ah. And I knew straight away by the sound what it was, but I didn't understand why it's just started doing it. Now, obviously, contacted Samsung, went through everything there, wrote out a nice little letter explaining that, look, if you do this, you'll hear the fault, blah, blah, blah. Like with other things, with TVs and other such tech, I'm pretty level-headed. I've worked on both sides of the fence. I've dealt with customers, and I've been customer when it comes to those kind of things. So I'm kind of even-keeled when it comes to that. I'm not quick to fly off the handle. I wait to see what actually happens first. So I went through all the steps with Samsung, and they arranged for the phone to go out. In the meantime of it actually getting sent out, I did go online, and obviously it's one of those things you don't Google, but you Google it when it happens to you, and it turns out there's hundreds of people with the same thing saying about their OIS actually starting to rattle now. Some had it on day one, some it was a couple of months later. Like myself, mine just happened like 2 weeks ago, and I had the phone since launch. Now, some of the people said that they basically got another phone sent back out to them, which is obviously a good thing. Some had a whatever fix that was done to it, which I would dare say is probably a really small fix. It might even be a case of something just getting pushed back into place or something glued into place, whatever it is. The housing, I don't know. But mine came back with no repair needed. And the funny thing is when it actually turned up in the packaging, my son said to us, "So, Dad, do you think they've fixed it then?" Because I'm having to use this old phone. And I said, I don't know. Let's find out. Now, it was actually still in the packaging, and I shook the packaging, and I still heard it rattling inside. And I said, no, they haven't fixed it. Took them out of the packaging, and yeah, it's still the same. Now, it is an extreme. If I just walk around and pan around the phone like this and stand outside and shoot things, zoom in, zoom out, fine, doesn't do anything. But if you walk, or if you're heavy-footed, or if you're doing stairs, or if you're actively jogging or anything else like that, where like you watch these videos on YouTube going back literally a decade or so, where people comparing stabilization in Apple and Samsung and Huawei and all these kind of things, you can hear the OIS jump around, like what hopefully you heard earlier. That is a problem. If you do any kind of active videos, it's going to spoil it. And also, normally what happens is I sell my old phone and get the next one. I've had every Samsung phone from the S1. In fact, the one before the S1, it was, I can't remember the name for it now. I think it was N something. It was a Samsung made it for Nokia, and it was the last, I think it was a Symbian 3 phone before Android became the thing. That was a really good phone, that thing as well. And then I moved on to the S line, and I've had every S phone apart from the S23. Most of them I've had to buy from Hong Kong because of the whole Samsung not putting the Snapdragon chips in the UK market. We were getting the Exynos ones. which was a slower and inferior chip. So I used to deal with a company where I used to get the Samsung phones from Hong Kong. But with the S24, they actually did put the Snapdragon chip inside it, so there was no need for it this time. So yeah, I've had them all, and I know what to expect, and I know a bit about them. So like I said, I went through everything, even wrote out the letter and everything, explained it, and it's still no good. When I actually got the phone back, and I've called them back up again, and I've been through everything, just saying, look, I understand it from their point of view, which is also going to be the same for pretty much any kind of tech. That they'll have a checklist, and they'll work the way down their checklist. Does it do this? Is it okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? And one of the things it probably isn't on that checklist for them to do is to make a video and act like you're walking down some stairs or whatever it is. And that's the kind of thing that you needed to do to highlight the problem. Now, I've explained all this, I've gone through that. I said I'll quite happily make videos to show you all this kind of thing. And they said, well, it's no good sending it back because chances are it'll just get sent back with no fault found again. And the next best thing was to ask me to travel between 90 and 100 miles to a service centre to pop in there to show them. I was like, well, this is not ideal. Now, at the end of the phone call, I always say, look, whoever I'm speaking to, it's not your fault. You're doing your job. You're doing your thing. I never lose my rag with anyone on that side of things. As long as they're polite and do everything courteous with me, I'm the same with anybody. Again, I've been a telesales manager in my time and all sorts of different things. And I've had all sorts of people on the phones before. So I'm very understanding with those kind of people. And I always say, look, it's not your fault. It's not your job. You've done what you've done. You've worked down your list of things that you can try. But I'm obviously not happy. Now, my parting message to them was the fact that this will be the last Samsung phone we get. Now, my family always gets Samsung with my mother, my son, my wife, myself. We always get the phones. But this will be the last one that I'll be suggesting that we do go on to. And something which we'll probably be going on to now will either be Huawei or Apple. Now, I'm not going to say that everything is rosy with those two. I dare say that there's people out there that have had dealings with the company that say Huawei is the worst thing they've ever come across. Apple is the worst customer service ever, or I can't believe how bad it is. And that's fair enough. That's the same with customer experiences. You have good, you have bad. I can only go by my bad experience, and this is my bad experience. So it's bad enough to make me think, well, if this is how it is over something like this, then how is it for something it's going to be a worse problem as such, or any kind of thing like that. It hasn't put me off with the other products. I love the TV I have. I've got tablets, I've got phones, I've got in here, even the PC alone, I've got SD drives, I've got M.2 drives, Samsung and stuff. So one of these things, that's it, I'm never buying Samsung products again. No, I will always buy the product which seems to work the best for me. When I have problems, that's another thing. If I keep having problems with it, that's another thing. And if the customer service sucks, that is the thing that makes me go further away from that certain company. Now, I'm quite lucky. I've never really had to contact manufacturers once it gets to the warranty point. Normally, my issues and faults are fine usually within a couple of weeks, and it's within the return period, and I can return something and then pick something else or do something else. When it comes to warranties, I struggle to remember how many times I've had to call in on a warranty or try and have somebody to come around. I think off the top of my head, in the last 5 years, I've had to do it twice. Once was with LG, and they fixed it, and once was with Samsung, which is this one now, and they haven't. So again, I take it for each product. So even though I have a bad experience with the phone, it doesn't mean I won't like the TV and so on. But yeah, as far as phones go, that's the last Samsung. So we'll move on to something else. The other thing was that over the years, one of the main reasons to go with Samsung was the fact that you had the SD card, which is one of the things that I really liked, and one of the things which a lot of people want to bring back, but they're not going to now. Samsung have basically become Apple. So the thing that was differentiating them was the fact that you had the SD card, but now that everything's all the built-in memory, There's nothing separating them apart from a slight look difference between the phones and obviously the operating system. So that's the only thing that changes it. So I will be moving probably to Apple, I would have thought, unless Huawei can amaze me with something. But yeah, so that's my gripe and groan about that one. It's just my experience. Like I say, it must be a known issue because I've literally seen hundreds of people on different forums with this same complaint about the OIS all of a sudden making more noise than it should do, rattling around in their phone. Anyway, that's that one. Next one, 5000s. I'm still going to stick with what I was saying before, but now there's a new thing which is kind of turned up as such. Well, it's not new, it's been out for a bit, but it's kind of getting to the point of where it's acceptable, and that's the Lossless 3.0, which just came out, which is kind of making the argument for the 5070 and the 5080 even worthwhile considering if you're going to lose money. That is, if you have a graphics card and you're able to sell it and you're not really taking a big hit on it, by all means move on to the 5000s, do whatever, that's fine. But certainly if you're having to take a big hit or a big loss on something, it's not really worth it now. That Lossless 3, I had a little play with it again today. Like with frame gen, I would never push them to extreme. It's just silly having all these massive high frame rates. You're always going to have issues. Doesn't matter which company or what kind of thing you're going to be using scaling wise. You're better off just sticking to something that's more in the sensible realms. The one I would kind of go by an example, say that you had a 4090 and you were maxing out Cyberpunk with everything up to full, and say you were hitting 70, 80 frames or something like that. I would use something like frame gen or use this lossless to hit something like, say, 120, 130 frames and leave it at that. I wouldn't start pushing it too crazy high. It's nice to be able to have these things, but, and I know AI is the way forward, it has to be, because they simply cannot make native GPUs. They'll be 2-3 times the price of what these things are. They'll be twice the size because you would need an even bigger cooler, because it would probably be a stacked chip, a double chip, like a monolith or something, on both sides, like the old AMD cards. And it would need a hell of a cooler just to keep the thing down. And you would be looking at a PSU of, you're going to be looking at a power draw of like 800 watts or more, maybe. It would be insane. It just can't be done. Not for the home market, not at an affordable price. So this is why AI is the thing. And it also goes into consoles as well. Consoles have to be smaller and affordable, so they're going to have to rely more on AI. The thing which I'm laughing about at the moment is the fact that they need hardware to go in line with it, because if they don't, I'm just wondering how far the software is going to push it, because if you're going to go for a fast-paced game online and you're running at 4 times, those kind of snapshots where it's just like that, those like someone sticks a head out, that little kind of twitch shooting, you might not be actually shooting it at the frame that you need to. You might be shooting at those fake frames. I can dare say with those fast-paced games, it being a thing where a lot of people are really positive they shot someone, but they didn't. They shot a fake frame that's on their side. So I think that AI is going to be a great thing and a good thing. Maybe not this time around, but certainly probably for the 6,000s and 7,000s. But I do think it's going to be something which leans more heavily into the slower single player rather than the multiplayer and the faster pace. I don't think there's any way around those kind of hit detections and things like that. I don't see how they can get around that. Now, again, we're talking really fast-paced shooting games, like those, like every shot counts, like millisecond kind of reaction, kind of twitch shooters that you see online. So we're talking probably on the extremes. The average person, maybe on your Fortnite and things, it might not be as big a deal. I don't know, unless somebody's obviously pulling off headshots and sniping and things. But we'll wait and see. But yeah, so really, if you are on, say, like a 4080 or a 4090 card, and you really, for some reason, really freaked out about frame gen 3 and 4 that the 5000 to get. Well, if you go onto Steam, it's on there. You can get the lossless scaling. 3.0 has just been released, I think, about a week ago. And after messing about with it, I was quite gobsmacked as to what it can do. It's yes, you're going to get added latency, but this tends to be when people are pushing it to the absolute extreme, and there's just no need for it. You just want to uplift what you actually have to the point where you're happy, and leave it at that, because your latency is obviously going to be better. But that should be the same even if you're using frame gen. There's no point pushing it to the extremes if you're just going to say, oh, look at the FPS, and it's like, yeah, but how's the handling? It's like you're walking on, or you're running on an ice rink where it's just not there. So yeah, for those who are interested in that, or trying to get more out of your machine, certainly even if you've got the 3000s as well, if you don't have the budget to upgrade, I would recommend that you do go onto Steam and have a look at Lossless on there. In the UK, it's £6 or $5.99, and I think it's about $6. I keep people saying it's $6 in America and things, but I would recommend getting hold of that thing and having a play around with it on some of your games. And the thing is, it works in every game. It's not bound by NVIDIA or AMD's kind of thing. So it works on everything. Some games will work better than others. But again, for that kind of money, and if you're kind of and ahhing as to whether you should upgrade or not, if you have select games or games that you tend to play, you're not continually buying new games. You've got like a set of maybe, say, 5 games that you really love and you're playing day in, day out, and that's your kind of bread and butter. It's worthwhile getting that and testing it on those games that you've got. And if you're happy and you like that, then whatever plans that you had for that next GPU, you could probably put off to the next card. Like I say, I was a bit skeptical, but it's quite impressive what it can do, and I can certainly see how people could end up buying it and skipping out on a generation and going for the next one. So anyway, I'll leave a link about that in the thing about this anyway, so if anyone's interested, but there's plenty of videos online. You can go on YouTube and look at people explain it way better than I will, and they'll show you footage of how it all works and everything. But it's definitely one to look out for, and it's quite interesting as to whether this is obviously it's good for people. I think I've seen a lot of people use it on the Steam Decks as well, and they've even brought out a special scaling on the actual men that you get with the program. There's just added one for, I think, for the Steam Decks as well. So not that I'm big into the handheld stuff, but if you can get really nice frame rates on there using that, could be worth looking into. Anyway,